Welcome to week 4 of the 2011 legislative session. From Tallahassee, I'm John Johnson, your Director of Governmental Affairs and Chief Lobbyist for the FICPA. Days 14 through 18 of the 2011 60-day legislative session were filled with budget meetings, as both the House and Senate Appropriations Committees received their 2011-2012 budget allocations. And with last week's Revenue Estimating Conference reporting a gap between anticipated revenues and needs ranging between $2.9 and $4.6 billion, the legislature will have to make difficult choices in constructing the 2011-2012 budget. Unlike the state of Illinois, which just passed a $7 billion tax increase, which included a stunning 66% income tax increase, and Connecticut, where their governor is proposing a budget that would raise taxes by $1.5 billion, taxing everything from car washes to haircuts. The Florida legislature plans on balancing the state budget without any new taxes and with cuts in all major state programs. Each of the 12 appropriations committees are painstakingly examining every program, every policy, and every project funded by government, looking for ways to reduce costs. As both Senate President Mike Karadopoulos and Speaker Dean Cannon reiterated last week, that the legislature will not rely on the old strategy of pushing hard budget decisions onto future legislatures. It will not risk the state's favorable bond rating by producing a budget that does not adequately fund reserves, and will do so without raising taxes. Both leaders stated that the budget allocations reflect their priority to deliver services to the people, such as education, health care, and public safety, over such things as transportation and general government. During week 4 of the 60-day session, the 12 appropriations committees will be tweaking their budgets as amendments to the proposed general appropriations bills, and the related implementing and conforming bills must be filed by March 30th, as both the House and the Senate are scheduled to pass their respective budgets by April 7th. Any differences between the House and Senate budgets will then be worked out in conference committee before final passage by both chambers. Besides passing a balanced budget, which, by the way, is the only constitutionally mandated piece of legislation that the legislature must pass during any session, the other priority for the legislature, which is something I touched on during last week's legislative and regulatory update, is their strong desire to find a balance between deregulation and streamlining of regulations. As the House Committee on Economic Affairs picked up last week, where the Business and Consumer Affairs Subcommittee left off in week 2, debating House Bill 5005, which is commonly referred to around the halls of the Capitol as the Deregulation of Professions Bill. This piece of legislation would not only deregulate such professions as auctioneers, talent agencies, yacht and ship brokers, but would have also deregulated the division of timeshares and mobile homes, if not for the lobbying efforts of the FICPA's legislative team and the FICPA's Common Interest Realty Association section, also commonly referred to as our SEER section. This bill would have eliminated the consumer protection of 3.5 million Floridians who live in community associations, would have jeopardized the protection and estimated $2.5 billion of annual operating funds, and jeopardize the estimated $2 billion of investment accounts held for long-term maintenance and replacement for community associations in the state of Florida. These provisions most likely would have remained in House Bill 5005 if not for the efforts of the legislative team, members of the SEER section, and others within the industry who lobbied the Florida legislature voicing our concerns. In an email I sent to the SEER section legislative review team to thank and congratulate them shortly after learning that the House Committee of Economic Affairs had just removed the deregulation of community associations from House Bill 5005, I received 2 short replies. The first one read, "Teamwork," and the second one read, "We can make a difference." And I will repeat something I emphasized during last week's update, and will continue to emphasize every opportunity I get. We simply could not cover as much ground as we do without our members getting involved in the political process. You are truly the team behind the team, and we greatly appreciate all you do to assist us in our efforts on behalf of the profession. During the last 6 weeks of the 2011 legislative session, I will feature one bill each week that the legislature is considering to put on the 2012 ballot as a proposed amendment to Florida's Constitution. As Article 11, Section 1 of Florida's Constitution allows the legislature to propose amendments by section or revision of one or more articles to the Constitution by a joint resolution that must be agreed upon by 3/5 of both the House and the Senate. This week's Now You Know proposed amendment to Florida's Constitution can be found in Joint Resolution House Bill 381 and Senate Bill 658, which would amend Article 7 of the state constitution by reducing the annual cap assessment increase for commercial property from 10% down to 3%. Furthermore, the assessment may not increase if the just value of the property is less than the just value of the property on the preceding date of this assessment. If this joint resolution passes by 3/5 vote by both the House and Senate, this proposed legislative amendment would be placed on the November 2012 ballot for voters to consider, which would require at least 60% of the voters to pass. And now you know. And finally, to end this report, Governor Rick Scott named former federal prosecutor Ken Larson as Secretary of the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation. As Secretary of DBPR, Mr. Larson will oversee the licensing and regulation of businesses and professions, which includes the CPA profession. And we look forward to working with Secretary Larson as the new Secretary of DBPR. And if you have any comments, suggestions, or topics of interest that you would like to see addressed on a future broadcast of the Legislative and Regulatory Update, please email me at johnsonj@ficpa.org. Again, johnsonj@ficpa.org. Until next time, I'm John Johnson. Have a great week.